Good Erev Shabbos, everyone. It's Erev Shabbos Parshas Naso in America. It's been a crazy week. It's been extremely difficult to watch from afar. Added on to everything that our world is going through, it just makes everything so surreal. How do we deal as Jews and as human beings with everything that's been happening? So I think that, like everything, we look at the Torah, we look at the parsha of that week, and we'll find some wise advice of how to process and deal with everything that's going on. You know, we have two amazing sections next to each other in this week's parsha. We have the section of the Sota and the section of the Nazir. The Sota is the suspected adulteress, a woman whose husband has said, don't be alone with that man. And she ignored her husband. She was alone with the man in front of witnesses in a locked room. No one knows what went on in the room. The Torah tells us that we take her to the altar. She undergoes a tremendous humiliation. And then she's given something to drink. And if she was in fact an adulteress, so then she dies there. And then if she wasn't, because it was necessary to define whether she was or she wasn't, and she had to go through that humiliation without ever clarifying what went on there. And because she had to go through that humiliation, she is blessed with children, blessed with a better future. And then the next section is the section of the Nazir. Person who takes a vow of abstinence, abstinence from wine, abstinence from becoming impure, from shaving and taking a haircut. And our rabbis explain what are these two parshas doing next to each other. And our rabbis say that the reason that they're next to each other is because somebody who sees this event happen up on top of the altar, who sees this incredibly traumatic event, that person is Yazer Atzmei Min HaYayin. He has to become a Nazir, he has to abstain from wine because he saw what the ill effects of wine were. This wine brought this about, that this woman was a drinker, this woman brought a certain sense of immorality into the house, and therefore he has to reinstate in his own life. He has to recommit himself to morality. An onlooker, a person who sees this happen. And therefore he takes a vow, a Naziritic vow. But I always ask a question and say, wait a second. The guy who saw it doesn't really have to take a vow because that guy, it's going to be indelibly impressed inside of his mind. That guy saw a woman explode on the altar. He knows what immorality brings. He understands what anger in a house brings to the whole place of being a sota, being a suspected adulteress, of what an angry husband and an angry wife, what that creates. He looks at it and he says, oh my God, look what happens when there's no shalom bayis. He gets it. Every time that guy hears wine, every time that guy sees a woman with somebody who's not her husband, by him, he's like starts to shake. Because he saw already once with his own eyes what's going to happen. It's the guy who never saw that. He's the guy you got to worry about. He's the guy that doesn't really take it so seriously. If you wanted to take it seriously, then he's the guy that should be Yazer Atzmei Min HaYayin. He's the guy that should take the neder, that should take the vow and should abstain from wine. So our rabbis say no. The reason why the guy who saw it with his own eyes is the one that has to be the one to take the vow is because there's a natural process that takes place. You see something traumatic, you say to yourself, oh my God, I'm never going to be the same. And you aren't the same for about 15 minutes. Because then afterwards, your natural sense of shikha, forgetfulness, your natural sense of just covering over the wound, of scabbing over that wound, of just sticking something in the back, in the recesses of your mind. That's the way we are as human beings. We could not exist if we didn't have that ability. But there are times There are times when forgetfulness, there are times when putting it in the back, sublimating thoughts is not healthy. There are times where events need to be sitting in the front of our eyes, on the front of our consciousness. Zecher liyetzias Mitzrayim, we're told, as a remembrance of the exodus of Egypt. Everything we do, every Shabbos, every Yontif, so many of the things that we do on a daily basis, we remember the exodus. We remember what it was to be slaves. We remember what it was for a God to take us out of there, for a God to love us so much. We remember what it means, the origins of our people, of where we began. These are things that have to stay in the front of our minds. And even that we have them, a commandment to keep them in the front of our minds, we still have to work hard to keep them in the front of our minds. And that's the reason why a person who sees this happen can't expect that he's forever going to be sensitive to this. Can't expect that the next time there's a little anger in his home, he's going to say to himself, wait, I can't do this. This could end in a bad place. Because he could easily forget about this. And therefore he has to set up something in his mind. He has to make it dramatic and traumatic. He's got to keep something in front of him, in front of his eyes, that becomes like a zeicher liyetzias Mitzrayim, that becomes like a remembrance for the exodus of Egypt, something that doesn't allow it to be forgotten. Somebody told me that after September 11th, a year or two later, they just weren't feeling anything. They took a picture of New York with the Twin Towers and they put it in their office. And every time they needed a reminder, look at that picture, they'd be reminded what hatred does, what hatred can perpetrate, what terrorism brings to the world. When incredible things happen around us, the Torah doesn't say that when this man sees it happen, then he goes up on a soapbox and he goes to Facebook and he shares his feelings on Facebook. That's not what it says. It doesn't say that when in the temple this guy saw this incredible thing happen, that he stands up now on a soapbox and he tells the world about what he thinks about this and whether he thinks it was moral or immoral. That's not what the Torah says. Torah says, get internal. Yazir atzmei min hayayin. Do something inside of yourself that makes you a different person. Nothing that anybody else has to know about. Nothing that anybody else has to see and say, wow, what a person. But to take it internal and to say, I am a citizen of this world. I set the tone in this world. What can I do? Not say, but what can I do to make this world a better place? To make this world a more tolerant world. A world more filled with love and acceptance. So much of the stuff that we hear and that we see is so, I have no other word, so stupid, so ridiculous, so empty. From politicians to people who are trying to show their politics. I just learned the Gemara this week that said that words are valuable. Words for a seller. They cost a seller. It's a lot of money. But mashtuka betraying. But silence is double the price. Be quiet. You have to make a statement. You have to do the right thing. Do the right thing. But after you've done the right thing, now do the right thing. Don't just look at it and say, isn't it terrible? Isn't it terrible what was done? On every side, isn't it terrible? Stop talking so much. Let's commit ourselves to becoming different. to treating people that are different than us like human beings, because everyone is a human being. We have to condemn evil. We have to condemn hatred. We have to condemn violence. We have to condemn anti-Semitism. There is no room in our world for any of that. But don't just point the finger out that way. Let's look inside of ourselves and say, how do I contribute to this mess? And is there a way that I can change some of my behaviors, my actions, my tone of voice, the way I talk, the attitude that I have towards people in the world? Is there some way that I could become different? What's my yazir atzmai min hayayin from this? What's my step and thing that I need to do to make sure that this doesn't just become commonplace and we go back to our regular lives in a week or two, as soon as things settle down? Imagine if a large swatch of our population looks at it and says, let's not worry about who to condemn. Let's not worry about all the political stuff and all the problems that this has pointed out in society. Let's worry about how I could be a better mensch, how I could be a better human being. And I think that's the message. I don't need to get involved. I don't need to tell you what I feel about it. I don't need to get up on a soapbox. It is obvious. We condemn hatred and violence. We condemn anti-Semitism. We condemn cold-blooded murder. But it's not about what my political position on this is. It's about what does it do to my insides? What does it do watching all of this? What does it do to me as a human being? How does it change me? We spend so much time looking at how it should have changed them, how those people, and we spend such painfully little time looking at it and saying, Yazer atzmai min hayayin. I gotta do something different. I gotta become a better mensch. Because then I will have done what the Torah expects me to do in every situation. Stop, think, and apply. And when you stop and you think and you apply, that's when you truly become a mensch. My friends, we should have a beautiful Shabbos, a thoughtful Shabbos. Time to reflect a little bit about the way that we treat people, the way that we see ourselves as citizens of the world. And it should only uplift us, bring us higher, and ultimately bring us closer to the world, closer to the Jewish nation, and ultimately closer to the Ribono Shel Olam, to the Master of the Universe. A guten Shabbos.